Hello everyone, the Guiding Gamer here, and today I bring you the Guiding Gamer's Guide to Redstone number 4, and in this episode we are gonna take a look at the last few blocks before we start moving into circuits, logic gates, different applications and other topics like so. Wait, what is this? Wait, never mind. Pistons are actually not a part of Minecraft. I've been told so by some logical Minecrafters that these actually don't exist. So I guess we're just gonna be looking at the dropper and the dispenser, you know. So yeah, okay. Nah, I'm obviously joking here. I'm joking. We're gonna go through pistons and why people have such, let's call them vocal opinions about people that like to use pistons. First of all though, I just want to go over the difference between a dropper and a dispenser. We've already talked about the dropper and that it drops items. The only difference is that a dispenser has a ability to sometimes use an item rather than dispense it. So if we put redstone lamps in here, it will just drop them. But if we put something in like an arrow, it will actually use the arrow and shoot it out. Like so. The dropper will not do this. The dropper will simply just drop out in arrow. So just quickly grab him and put in here. Drops out. And there's many different few things you can look up on the Wikipedia dispenser. But the gist of it is anything that you could imagine a player using. Not everything, but a lot of them. Like a snowball. It would throw that out like a snowball. Otherwise, it works pretty much like a normal dropper. Okay. Now, for the remainder of this video, we're going to talk about pistons. What they are, what they do, why some people are absolutely hating on people that use these for various reasons, and why I don't think they're right to do so as well. But let's just start talking about what does a piston do. Well, a piston pushes a block in any direction for one block when you power it. So if I put a block in front of this piston and take a lever and give it power, it'll push the block. And it can do so in every single direction. Right, let's just take a look at the sticky piston then. Well, it does the same, except the block sticks to the piston, meaning that it will push it like out when it's powered, and it'll retract again. So, extending of pistons take 2 ticks, retracting is immediate. When a block is being pushed from A to B, in that period where it's in between blocks, it turns into something called a like an entity basically, and it's not exactly a block at that point, it's an in-between state, which means that the block loses its power or its ability. Whatever that block does, it can't do that while being moved. The easiest way I could show this is by taking a redstone block and then just run a wire across here. So you can see that it is powered, and you might just think that if we push the block one ahead over here, this is never going to lose power because it's obviously the redstone block is always next to it. But it'll actually remove power when the block turns into block 32, which is the piston moving block basically. You don't need to know too much about it, just know that it temporarily loses its ability to do anything, which can be used to do stuff like this. Right. So let's talk a little bit about the piston and why some people really dislike when you're using these pistons for something. So there's a special breed of redstoner called a logical redstoner. They build stuff like computers, they build stuff like calculators, they build stuff that generally speaking are mathematical or logical. And there's some issues with pistons when it comes to that. First of all, the piston can bug out during unloading and loading of chunks, which means just outside of render distance. They can be something called BUD powered, block update detect powered, which means that they have a bug basically, which is by now not really considered a bug, more like a feature. But basically, if a piston is powered from one block above, it'll receive power, but only once you update it. So right now it's 2 blocks above, I update it, it's not powered, I send it 1 below, nothing happens, I need to update it, it stays like that until it gets updated again. That's a bit annoying when you're trying to build fast and compact circuits, so some people don't like that. And you don't need a piston in logical Minecraft. You don't need the pistons because all the logical functions are achievable through faster or better means, or more compact means, and also more reliable means. There are some reasons for this. Another thing is if a piston receives a pulse that is shorter than 2 game ticks or 1 redstone tick, it spits out the block. And one way I can show you this is just by quickly powering and unpowering it. If I can actually manage to do it quick enough, there we go. Another way is that you can, we're cheating again a little, we're moving into what a monostable circuit is here, but we're gonna make one, and I will explain how it works. We actually don't need that, we can do it like that. Right, use a button here. So the first part here that I've made is called a monostable circuit. What it does is it takes a otherwise long pulse and turns it into a short pulse. So you can see the button and the piston stays on for way longer than this thing does. It's the same with a lever, which is technically on forever, but we get a pulse here. So how does this one work? Well, it's quite simple. The redstone dust turns on here, which immediately then powers this repeater set to 1 tick, which sends a 1 tick pulse out. But the redstone dust also powers this piston, meaning that this piston extends up and removes the power from here, and so it creates a 1 tick pulse. If we wanted a 4 tick pulse, all we would need to do is create 4 ticks here, and the way I can show you that it is indeed a 4 tick pulse is I can take 1, 2, 3, 4, and then everything else should just be 4 long. This is a good way to visualize pulse length. There we go, and just use a button. So you can see it only powers 4 of them because it's a 4 tick pulse. Right, that's all you need to know about that. Now the reason why pistons are also a bit of a headache when using them in logical things is the fact that when you power them with a shorter than 1 tick pulse, they get spit out, and sometimes you'll have to prevent your device from doing this if you're using pistons, because well, you don't exactly, maybe you power something and then you unpower it, but then oh no, all of a sudden the block is still in its wrong state, and that's not what you want, and then you have to like protect them from this, and it can be a bit of a headache. So some people hate on these, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to do everything the absolute most optimal and proper way. The only issue I have with it is the fact that for newer redstoners, I think it's super valuable knowing what the piston does, how it works, why you can still make something in logical Minecraft that has the same concept, same thought process behind it. Let's say, like my divider. I have a divider that has pistons in it. It's an old divider design. It works exactly like you would expect dividers to do. It's basically just a bunch of subtractors that are conditional. It's conditional subtracting. That is what division is. It works with pistons, but that has nothing to do with the principle of a divider. There you go. Also, fun fact, that thing has never bugged out, so it works perfectly fine. Right. Now, all of that aside, what are some use cases of the pistons that the general public of the logical Minecraft community might consider being good? Well, piston doors, double piston extenders, general contraption making. They just, for whatever reason, dislike them in their logical Minecraft. So, there you go. So, you know, yeah, that's about it. So for the end of this one, I'm just gonna show you a fun design that I made, which is a double piston extender. Just because, you know, why not? Okay, so you want to have two sticky pistons facing into each other, just like so. And above it, you want 2 blocks, and then extending one towards the end of the piston head, you want another one, and just redstone dust on that. Then coming from the middle piston, you want to go one up on a diagonal, and take a repeater, and set that to vortex. Then going up from here, you want to place a block there, and then 2 sticky pistons, one on either side, facing down like so, and place any block of your choice. I prefer to use glass, so I will be using glass. Just because that's going to look a little bit better once we're done. It's going to make sense in a second. Now, coming up from the block you placed earlier, you just place a normal block, and then a normal block, and you continue some wire going down here. Now, on the middle redstone dust here, remove that, and then place a repeater, set it to 1 tick, I believe, and that should be it. And then you can power it with a button or a lever, and it works a little something like this. Now, being new to redstone, you might look at this and go like, what the actual is going on here? Well, this is actually taking advantage of the fact that powering a piston 1 block above it doesn't extend, but it sort of only extends when it realizes it should be extend, and you update it. So what is happening here is that I am butt powering this piston and to an extent this piston. Well, actually, I'm butt powering this piston and then updating it by sending a glass block down, which then pushes this into a position that is already powered, and then this gets pushed like along the way, basically. That's a very bad explanation, but it works like that. And that is, you know, not possible without pistons. Not useful for anything logical, but it's a neat thing. So I believe that you have the right to know what pistons are and what they're good for, what they're not necessarily good for, and why even if you're using it for something that isn't good, it's still alright, because you're not supposed to learn what is perfect, you're supposed to learn the concepts behind different things. And then once you get more advanced, if you want to do better things, you can move into pistonless logic stuff. Like, you know, you can make a pistonless monostable circuit, you can make a pistonless T flip-flop, you can make a pistonless adder, like you can make a pistonless divider out of that adder, and so on and so forth. It's the most optimal by far, it's also the fastest, the cleanest, you name it. But for now, we're just teaching you redstone. So if you like this video, make sure to like it, and if you really loved it, then make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. So comments are in the comments, Reddit, Twitter, and Facebook. I'll see you all in the next one.